Hi, and thank you for tuning in for this recorded presentation. I'm glad I can partner up with the Wellkind School for Early Learners to provide this. This is going to be, as I mentioned, a recorded PowerPoint presentation that will be made available to you so you can watch at your leisure. My name is Tony DeSantis. I serve as the environmental educator and naturalist with the Lackawanna State Park Complex, and I am one of roughly 125 educators with the Pennsylvania State Park system. And the essence of my job is to offer educational and recreational programs to park visitors and to the local community, as well as work with schools, other educational institutions, other natural resource agencies to provide educational experiences or trainings to either supplement their curricula, their resources, to help folks of all ages meet standards and objectives. And especially in a learning environment with our schools, I help teachers kind of have a place for in the field experiences and site visits here at the park. So here I am allowing a praying mantis to crawl up my arm. So I have a pretty fun job here at the park. Now, I will say I know my insects, I know my birds, I'll teach you how to kayak. I enjoy utilizing lesson plans and activities from various curricula and programs, but I do want to be transparent and state that I am no expert on the science of education. So this presentation is not original research. It's developed through various resources as I kind of looked into this topic that we'll be covering. And our topic, of course, is getting kids outside and why outdoor learning experiences are so beneficial, which will be our first talking point in this conversation. The second talking point is how Pennsylvania state parks fit in, which I kind of alluded to already, but we'll take it further. So let me pose a question that on paper may appear to have a pretty simple answer. What is an outdoor learning experience? A simple answer would be being taught outside. But there are many forms of outdoor learning experiences which span a wide range of expectations. So narrowing down a one and done definition is constantly being debated by, those experts, folks smarter than myself. And here I have a handful of different forms of outdoor learning, environmental education, team building, adventure therapy, adventure activities, outdoor play. And these may have different expectations, but they all have common cores. So what are the common cores of these types of experiences conducted outside? So first off, each one, all those have have potential to offer direct experiences which can promote personal growth and give children the opportunities to discover those aha moments, which are often met through hands-on learning. What's an aha moment? These are those times when you heard about something, you read about something, you kind of have some grasp on the content, on the material, but then you get outside and you see it in action and things just click. Outdoor learning experiences allow children to learn actively by doing and through self-discovery. So by being exposed to the great outdoors, first off, they're developing a connection to nature and maybe the development of outdoor skills, but plus they can learn about who they are and what they're capable of and how to interact with other children through team building or group dynamics. When outside, students can very often see, touch, smell, hear, in some cases taste, real objects that they are learning about. So they learn things in the classroom through studies, through maybe lecture or readings, But then they could bring those classroom studies to life outside. So when they're learning that fruits grow on trees, well, they could come out to a park or to an apple orchard and see the very fruits that they enjoy eating. Apples, cherries, blackberries or blueberries that grow wild naturally here in the park. Outdoor learning can introduce children to new interests and hobbies. So it may initially lay that foundation that helps them to develop an environmental literacy. And for some, it may influence their academic or career paths into or through adulthood, or at least their pursuits when they develop, passions and, again, back to hobbies. And outside learning can offer experiences in many, if not all, traditional school disciplines. I could think of examples where we can get kids outside and we can include English, reading, writing, math, and of course the sciences, even physical education and health. Also, these can offer experiences in personal and social development, and as I mentioned earlier, literacy in the environment and sustainability. So I introduced the outdoor learning experiences, those common cores, but I didn't really hit home as to why it is important and should be offered to children, whether around their home, around their school, at summer camps, essentially life in general. What are the benefits of getting outside? Why do they matter? And bear in mind, this is not limited to young people. All of us, regardless of your age, can see these benefits in your own respective ways. So let's discuss some of those examples. And I'd like you to take a moment and think back to your childhood. And I'm willing to bet you have some fond memories of getting outside and doing the work of children. Play, right? Play. This is a prime example of children being able to get out and learn in an unstructured environment. Play does not need structure to be effective. And when I think of the outdoors, this doesn't imply you need to go visit Yellowstone National Park or spend a week camping in some secluded campground. It just means that you are getting outside your home, your school, looking for green space, no matter how big it is, to make connections with nature around us. A playground is a remarkable place for kids to create and explore. And even in urban environments, downtown Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, wherever you live, you're going to find aspects of nature. Now, obviously, it might be different from coming to a natural area, like a state park or a state forest, but it's still present. And just because we, as adults, we grow up, it doesn't mean we're not allowed to play either, especially alongside our children, our nieces and nephews, our grandchildren, our classroom students. Playing beside them allows us to share an experience and gives us a moment to roast a marshmallow. When is the last time you roasted a marshmallow over a fire? So we could create memories and experiences with our children while we're learning about the outdoors and, of course, ourselves. So combined with those experiences at home, at school, with family or friends, getting kids outside helps them to develop into who they are and who they will be. Studies have shown that outdoor education and play, whether it's structured or unstructured, will support emotional, behavioral, and intellectual development, such as some of the examples listed here. So independence, sense of self, confidence in themselves, developing creativity, problem-solving skills, empathy for others, empathy for nature, and self-drive or initiative. And these are all skills that we want to see in people we work with, or in partners, or other, our neighbors. So this is where it is developed when we're kids. And as I said, studies have shown playing outside, getting outside, helps develop these. Now, moving on from that personality development, getting outside is a wonderful place to develop physically. So running around and playing assists with muscle growth. It assists with cardiovascular health. Activity levels are increased when outside. It's almost automatic. And unlike what my mom did when I was young, where she would just kind of push me outside to just get me out of the house so I'd get out of her hair, and I wasn't allowed back inside until it was dark. Kids don't need an all-day experience. They only need 1 to 3 hours of physical activity to see these benefits. And when they're outside, they can perform activities that are very often inappropriate for the indoors. Even in large spaces like a gymnasium, they may not be able to ride a bike or go sledding, throw a ball, play tag. And sometimes in those indoor spaces, they really can't have the full freedom of complete exertion. So they can't run as fast as they can, developing those leg muscles and their stamina. They can't jump as far or as high as they can. They can't climb to the top of a slide. Outside they have that freedom and space to really develop fully physically. Now, just telling your kids to go outside is not going to do this like magic, right? Outdoor play is encouraged by their peers, so siblings, neighborhood friends, family members. It's also encouraged by safe spaces. We don't want our kids playing in crime-ridden areas or neglected spaces where there are hazards, whether they're natural or man-made hazards. So we want to include safe spaces which encourages outdoor play, and they're also encouraged by organized activities such as team sports, summer camps, after-school clubs, extracurricular activities. And speaking of physical activity, which leads to better health, getting outside, as cliche as this sounds, is literally good for you, as it drives the production of vitamin D. So vitamin D is crucial for many processes, such as the aiding in the development of children's bones and skeletal structure. It supports their immune system. It helps with muscle performance, which leads back to physical health, and is also crucial for brain cell activity. Also, time beneath the sun sort of fine-tunes our internal clocks that we all have, that circadian rhythm. So this will influence their sleep patterns, help them get to bed at a consistent time each night, waking up at a consistent time each morning. And studies have shown that spending time outside can delay the onset of nearsightedness, so the inability to focus at distant objects. So playing outside actually helps with eye health as well, even though that's not fully understood yet. Of course, spending outside, example of this is shown to help improve mental health. Stress levels are reduced, our mood is improved, mental fatigue is reduced, and it actually helps boost our ability to focus and pay attention. And for children who deal with ADHD, it has been shown to decrease those symptoms. There is a study that was conducted where they had kids with ADHD either walk 20 minutes through a natural area or 20 minutes through an urban area. And those who walked in a natural area showed improved cognitive performance and reduced symptoms. So they had better concentration and ability to focus compared to those who walk through an urban area. Getting outside lets all of us, learn new concepts through exploration. You know, looking at this image here, I see the child in the middle of the stream. This child is experiencing the force of the flowing water against his shins. For any of them who aren't wearing shoes, they would experience the mud squishing between their toes. You can't find these experiences inside. At least you shouldn't anyway, right? It also promotes place-based learning, which is a process of using a local community and environment as a starting point to teach concepts, which improves connections to a child's community and their natural resources, their environment. You know, it's great to watch a TV show about colorful birds in the Amazon jungle. But guess what? Right here in northeastern Pennsylvania, we have colorful birds flying all around us. We just have to get out there and create the opportunities to stumble across these birds or actively look for them. Playing in streams, you know, they're full of critters that can only be found through effort. So rolling over logs, using a dip net in the water, flipping over rocks. This is when we're able to find salamanders and little critters that otherwise we're not going to see. And when we learn what the name of a tree is or a bug is, it really gets to sink in when we discover it and see it in hand. And exploring your backyard is a perfect place to begin. You have grass, you have shrubs, you know, flowers you planted, a garden. You're going to see concepts of nature right there, even if your backyard is 10 by 10 feet in size. Stemming from experiences that help us understand that life is around us, no matter where we live, we can learn to respect the environment and those living things. We can learn how to handle creatures gently. We can realize we need to return them back to their homes, those habitats where we found them, and that we need to disturb them at a minimum. And this will hopefully translate to the next generation of environmental stewards, whether it's through undertaking advanced learning when they leave high school, following an environmental career path, or just by being an environmentally conscious resident of where they live, of their community. So when it comes down to voting, when it comes down to decision making for themselves as an adult, they have an idea of how it may affect their local environment. And all of this correlates to the environmental literacy and sustainability standards that are being adopted within Pennsylvania's education guidelines, which are being implemented in 2 years, in 2025. So hopefully all of this that we just kind of discussed will be a bit more commonplace for all of our students, no matter where they go to school within Pennsylvania. So we talked about the benefits of outdoor learning experiences. So how does the Pennsylvania State Park system support this? So I'm going to read this passage to you, and I want you to think about where this may be found. The people have a right to clean air, pure water, and to the preservation of the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic values of the environment. Pennsylvania's public natural resources are the common property of all the people, including generations yet to come. As trustee of these resources, the Commonwealth shall conserve and maintain them for the benefit of all the people. This passage is directly from the Pennsylvania Constitution. And when it comes to Pennsylvania State Parks supporting outdoor learning, this is where we get our strength from. And as you read here, it mentions people, not citizens, not residents, but everyone has the right to access public natural resources. So state parks, state forests, state game lands, state fish and boat areas. You have the right to those areas. So as a right, with the state park system, we do not have entrance fees for you to access. Now there are some states in the country that do have access fees when you want to visit a state park. We do not. So there should never be a financial burden for you to come out and visit and explore. Now some facilities that we manage may have a cost, camping, pavilion rentals, pool entrance fees, but the area overall, the park itself, will not, it is free, is not a cost to you. We are supported by tax dollars distributed through the general fund. However, transportation or drive time may be a factor in one's ability to visit their local state parks. If your closest state park is an hour away, you may not feel motivated to visit, or at least visit that often. Fortunately, between 1955 and 1979, we had a director who was ahead of the curve on this. This is Dr. Maurice Goddard, and he had a vision to develop a state park within 25 miles of every Pennsylvanian. That way, no matter where you lived, it wasn't that long of a haul to your closest park. It's going to be within 25 miles. Now, we do have a few gaps, and not all parks were created equally in terms of facilities, but today we have 124 state parks that we want people to get out and explore. And these state parks, we could provide children and adults places to pursue many recreational activities. So hiking, biking, cross-country skiing on our trail systems, using lakes for kayaking and fishing. Some parks have beaches for swimming. Some parks, like Lackawanna, we have a pool complex. Now when it comes to camping and pools, those are two facilities that do have a cost associated with them. So I will mention that, but everything else is at no cost to you. So you can access the trails, you can access the lake, the boat ramps. And by getting out and playing in your state parks, you have the ability to visit and explore as an individual, as a family, as a classroom, as a group of any kind, whenever and as often you like. And in some cases, we have equipment you can borrow. So here at Lackawanna State Park, we have snowshoes, some snowshoes, not too many, that are available in the winter as long as we have adequate snow cover. And we also lend out fishing equipment, so rods, reels, basic tackle throughout the year, depending on the water conditions. If it's covered in ice, you won't be able to fish. But this is available to you at no cost. So you just simply come into our office, sign it out, and you have it for as long as you like within the park. But as a system with educators, right, we help you experience the park alongside of us, and we can educate children how to pursue different recreational pursuits and really hone in their skills, or at least be introduced to it. So if they really enjoy it, they can then develop and explore it further. So we'll do, guided hikes. We'll teach people how to kayak or canoe, depending on the resources that each park has. Some parks offer backpacking and camping programs. We'll teach kids how to fish, geocaching, or orienteering. Some parks have archery equipment. So every park is different depending on their natural resources and their facilities that they have at hand, and their equipment, of course, on hand. So here at the park, we do a winter fest each February, and as long as we have safe winter conditions, we actually team up with the Pennsylvania Game Commission. They have an educator regionally, and he will bring people out on the ice and teach them how to ice fish. So we try to introduce as many people to these recreational pursuits as possible, and we are certainly including our youth. But how do we offer outdoor educational experiences? So one way is through interpretation. And these are programs that help people of all ages, but very often children, understand the natural world better. And the most common way is discovering the life we have living right here in our parks, whether we're rolling over logs or using binoculars in search of plants and animals. So we're looking at birds, we're looking for salamanders, we're doing flower walks, right? And we're talking about what we come across. And at each park, we interpret the natural features of that specific site. For some parks, they may have geological formations, such as the Boulder Field at Hickory Run State Park, or that park may have a strong historical component, such as the iron furnaces at Pine Grove Furnace State Park in south central Pennsylvania. So we interpret the park to its fullest, naturally, historically, and culturally, as long as it's relevant and, within our scope. Now, luckily, we are often lucky enough to develop strong connections with outside resources where they could share their knowledge in fields we may not be strong in. So here at Lackawanna State Park, I work with a local astronomical society to offer stargazing programs in the summer where they have telescopes and a wealth of knowledge that I don't. And we also bring in a local expert on Civil War history to offer a talk about what it was like to be a Union soldier from Pennsylvania during the Civil War era. So these are two talks I know very little about and have no equipment or resources to utilize, so we partner up with those other agencies or individuals to offer as many and as diverse listings of programs for our interpretive services. We also promote community science initiatives like monarch tagging, where we ask the general public, kids especially, to help us catch monarch butterflies in September. And then we collect some data from them, we tag them with this little sticker on their wing, and then we release them as they're migrating to Mexico. And this is actually an activity, one of a few that we do, that we collect actual data that is then submitted to databases and researchers that is actually used. We also promote science-based apps and online platforms to connect nature with technology. Just because it's online or through a smartphone doesn't mean we can't use it in a natural setting. I use it quite often, in fact. But from interpretation, we can go further. So I'll pose another question that sounds, again, it should have a simple answer. But what is the difference between environmental education to outdoor education? So environmental education is a more formal process that allows the individuals to, 1, explore environmental issues, 2, to engage in problem solving, and 3, take action to improve the environment. So we are talking about working with school groups, or even, it doesn't have to be a school group, but any group who wants a more formal educational program to become aware and increase their sensitivity to environmental issues and to their local environment. Hopefully they increase their knowledge and understanding of their local environment and the challenges it faces or has faced. Change attitudes, where we want to develop that attitude of concern for the environment and motivate them to improve or maintain environmental quality. We're also hoping to develop their skill set where they can identify and resolve environmental problems. And we want them to participate in activities that lead to the resolution of programs. And environmental education is written within the Pennsylvania State Park mission statement. So we do take this seriously, hence why we have a strong team of 125, give or take a few, educators working around the state with our state park system. These are formal programs, so they might be initially begun in the classroom before we go outside, where we are striving to hit objectives for that student's academic career. And more often than not, they focus on biological and ecological sciences, but not always. Again, each park may have features that can expand their offerings. So some parks may have a historical program they could provide to students in schools. Here, we're pretty strong in watershed education. So we provide a program to local high schoolers, and each local high schools will send a team to us that we work with throughout the year talking about our watershed right here in Lackawanna, the Lackawanna and Susquehanna River valleys. Now, most of the time, we serve as the field experiences for topics and lessons that are being taught within the classroom. So teachers will present the material at school, and then they team up with us where we can provide a site visit here where we supplement that information with real-world hands-on activities. And we work with formal teachers in public and private schools, grades pre-K through 12th grade, as well as local colleges, homeschool co-ops. So we want to work with that more formal component of education and get kids out here where they have the hands-on experience. We also serve as what are called MeWe ambassadors. MeWe, the Meaningful Watershed Educational Experience, is this initiative that promotes and pushes classrooms to explore their local environment and address issues that they discover. And we provide guidance and field site experiences for those classes. And if a class can't come here for whatever reason, we will go to them. We will try our best to bring nature into classroom per se. So we might bring some critters or hands-on resources to, again, supplement what they're learning in the classroom. In addition to offering a site visit to educators with their classes, we also provide trainings and resources for those educators that they could bring back into the class. So the Bureau of State Parks, we serve as the host institute for a handful of nationally recognized environmental education curricula, such as Project Wild, Project Wet, Project Learning Tree, as well as subsections of all three of those programs. And we have developed a few of our own curricula as well, such as Get Outdoors, Go Teach learning series, Pennsylvania Songbirds, and a Watershed Education program. And by providing these workshops to educators, we are putting those resources directly into their hands to help them either introduce their students to nature or to expand upon their schoolroom material. We also do this with informal educational programs too, such as summer camp staff. In fact, yesterday I had a summer camp staff here. We got them the resources for Project Wet program. So we will work with institutes of all kind to provide these workshops, either specifically for them or to subsets of their staff, maybe, like I said, summer camp staff or their teachers. And we will host public workshops that anyone can attend. So up to this point, everything I've been offering our site visits for schools, our interpretive programs, recreational programs, those have been without a cost. However, with educator workshops, I am obligated to charge a minimal fee, which helps to offset the cost of materials that those educators will go home with. And honestly, it doesn't even uh, fill the entire cost. So we try to keep it as cheap as possible because we do not want any educator to have that financial burden set upon them. So I hope by now you see the benefits of bringing your children outside and how Pennsylvania state parks fit into the educational aspect of outdoor learning experiences. I want to wrap up with some information you should know to truly make your time exploring the outdoors with youth as rewarding as possible, which means being aware of safety issues. So we have a little list here, and the first one is associated risks of the environment and inherent risks of an activity. So within the natural area, you have the terrain itself, which may offer tripping and slipping hazards, old trees or limbs overhead, bodies of water. You may be participating in a pursuit like kayaking where you are on the water. So being aware of the risks of coming out to a park or any natural area, being aware of the risk of when you go hiking 5 miles or go kayaking should be on top of your list, and you should be willing to, if you are willing to visit that natural area, especially in a wilderness type setting, or pursue a recreational activity, know beforehand what those risks are and how to mitigate them. And that is where preparation is key. So planning a trip with a map or talking to park staff, letting family or a friend know your intentions of where you're going, what you're doing, and when you plan to be back. Knowing your own limitations. Being introduced to an activity before you go kayaking by yourself. Preparing by looking at the weather forecast. Making sure you have water and food if you're going to hike 5 or 6 miles that day. Knowing park or activity regulations. If you want to go fishing as an adult, you need a fishing license, except for 2 days out of the year where the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission has fish for free days. So those are things to know beforehand before you venture out. Again, know not only your own limitations, but your children's limitations. They physically may not be able to walk 3 miles, or mentally might get bored after a mile. So prepare for that. Wildlife. Know how to reduce incidents. Don't be like me where you're picking up snakes. Leave animals alone. Don't bother them. Don't chase them. Wildlife are, and this is a cliche to say, but they really are more afraid of us than we are of them. So if you don't want to see anything, make noise. If you go camping, know how to be prepared for areas that might have a bear population. If you bring your dog, make sure you're following regulations, keeping them safe, right? So keep them leashed. This protects the dog, it protects other people, and protects the environment. And of course, clean up after your dog so you reduce the transmission of disease and of course the mess. Within Pennsylvania state parks, all dogs have to be on a leash and they have to be cleaned up after. So bear that in mind when you bring your dog out. Otherwise, we want to see you walking your dog out here. Going back to wildlife, we see snakes, we see deer and bears from time and again, but they're not very common. Insects, however, are quite numerous. So if you're allergic to bees or wasp stings, make sure you're prepared. Have a prescription to epinephrine and have it with you, know how to use it. Ticks. Ticks are a part of life when you play outside, especially in natural areas. So we have to learn how to adapt a bit, or make sure we're not afraid to get out into areas where ticks may be present, but we're mitigating the chances of picking up a tick-borne disease. So it's always a strong idea to develop a habit of ticking for checks when you're done outside, whether you're playing or learning. And sometimes you need to look in places where you may not consider typically, the backs of your knees, your armpits, your small of the back, and what we say the nooks and crannies, right? And with kids, we may need to give them a hand. So being aware of ticks is quite vital to having enjoyable experiences outside. Many of us, myself included, are allergic to poison ivy, so learning how to recognize it so you can avoid it. Making sure if you're camping and you have a fire going, not to burn poison ivy, because now that oil that we're allergic to is up in the smoke, and we inhale it, and now it's impacting our lungs and our throat and our insides of our mouth. So being aware of that allergy and being aware of the presence of this plant. All right, so to wrap up, I thought I would show you the list of different resources I used to compile this presentation. So feel free to look at any of these for further information. And we have two lists, of course, 1 and 2, just because I couldn't fit them all on one slide. But I want to thank you for viewing this presentation. I hope that you now see the benefits of outdoor learning experiences for children, even when they're goofy like this image of pretending to eat a worm, which is such an adorable picture. And I hope you see that we are a resource for you. So if I can ever help you, whether you want to come out to the park as a family or as a classroom, feel free to reach out to me. And I do hope that I'll see you here at the park, or that you get out to any green space to help our kids get out in nature and see the benefits of outdoor play. But thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all at the parks soon. Thank you.